All right. Is everyone logged in, or at least getting that way? We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. Dave, our fearless leader, is on vacation, so some of us stepped up to fill in for him today. And I was one of the lucky ones that got to speak. So everyone get signed in to the and get your name tag. Okay, that's good. Update on the important stuff first. Food is on its way, but they ran out of bread at Subway. So as soon as the bread is made, food will be here. The important part is taken care of. Drinks are over here. We've got some Indie VMUG stickers, and we have some other VMUG stickers as well. There's some other stuff over here. That is good. Things that we need to work about, because this is a slide deck that Dave gave me, so I'm going to go through it. VMUG is August 26th through the 30th. There is a VMUG member party, so if you're going to VMUG, make sure you get registered for that. It is August 26th at 7:30 at the House of Blues in Mandalay Bay. I believe you have to sign up for that, but if you're going, sign up for it. Again, time that you don't have to pay for food when you're in Vegas is a good time. Yeah, so I barely got myself in, right? So I haven't been able to go yet, so it's in the works for next year, but we're going to try to make it happen. Member survey. VMUG is trying to basically understand the members a little bit more. I believe it's in the Slack channel. I believe we posted it on our community page, the survey link. If you have a chance and you can get in there and do that, you get the chance to win a $100 gift card, but I don't remember where it's to, but it's there. Our next meeting is August 15th. Again, finalizing the PowerShell PowerCLI stuff, trying to bring this all together. We've took comments from the last meeting and have now got a way for you guys to get in there and play while we're talking about what we're doing. So hopefully if you have more comments after tonight, that'll give you some ways to make it better. But it's going to be August 15th. We are still looking on a location, but watch the emails and we'll figure that out. I think we're close, but we're not sure. And as a reminder, get on Slack because we've been having a lot of interesting conversations when people are updating their computers or servers or some of the other stuff on our Slack channel. Okay, and the handouts in the Slack channel as well. So it's not always about VMUG when we're in the Slack channel. The general does get kind of interesting every now and then. So get on there, have some fun, and be part of the community. Community challenge. Thanks to everybody that helped us out. We won 4th place. We won $3,000 to go towards an experience. That experience is going to be a social lab, a hands-on lab, or having someone come in and speak to us. So we're going to look for any recommendation, comments, or thoughts. We're still trying to figure out exactly, getting a truly defined definition between the differences of a social lab and a hands-on lab. I believe it's been said that one of them is a bring your own device and the other one is they ship the devices in. Excuse me, but I don't know if we've exactly figured out which is which. Did we ever get in? Yeah, and when we asked VMUG, they kind of answered it the same way. So we're still trying to get information on which one we're going to get and which one we're going to do. But if you do have any idea of a speaker that would be interesting to have come in and talk, we have money to put towards that as well. So there's that. Oh, and if you have any ideas of even on the lab side, if you have anything that you would like to go over on the hands-on lab, yeah, any topics all associated, get with one of the leaders, give us some ideas, or jump in Slack and drop information in there. VMUG Advantage. Tim was the winner last month of the first 6 month. Did you get it yet, Tim? Has that information come in yet?
Yeah, that was like the next day.
Oh, rock on. So we do get it fast, but there's still time to win. We have one more that we're giving away at the end of the year. Every meeting counts. I believe every post. Is it every post?
I think at least it did during
the first round? Yeah. Maybe not so much things we're not going for the community challenge, but there's several easy way. All your entries before still count towards the next round. Tim's out, so he can't get another one. So that opportunity is there. Oh, it is still, yeah. Receive one entry for discussion post reply on fortwayne.com/VMUG. So always ways to win. VMUG Advantage is very, very nice. You get access to all of the VMware stuff for your personal use. So it is fun. Any questions on VMUG Advantage? Because we have to hit that hard, but.
Discount too, right?
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, I think.
I thought they give you a discount.
Oh, I thought that was in the next slide. Oh, that was in the pre-slides. I'm sorry. All the things that you can get, I could actually probably pull that up. All the things that you get with VMware Advantage, you get discounts on training, you get discounts to VMworld, and that's a stackable discount on VMworld, I believe. $100 off of VM. Yeah.
Sorry. Also, VMUG Advantage just got an SRM today too, so Site Recovery Manager.
There you go. News that I hadn't heard yet. So.
He just said it, so I was like, oh yeah, that's probably a good thing to say. That'll be fun to play with.
So again, all things you can have fun in your home lab with, or if you want to play with what we're doing with Revio and have fun in getting there and doing that stuff as well, you can. This quarter, all our quarterly meetings this quarter are done by Rubrik. They were at VMUG. They have called me. Yeah.
That would be very attractive. They haven't called me yet.
I don't even think I stopped by their booth, but it's good. Oh, I just see. I started talking about them and it disappeared. What happened? Oh, it probably auto-cited that. But Rubrik's this meeting, our meeting, this meeting, next meeting, and then the big meeting in September is all sponsored by Rubrik. So when they're here, you're going to hear their spiel in September, but they are taking care of the 2 meetings in September as well. So that they're helping pay for food today.
September we are in
Casas?
Southwest.
Yeah, we're back at Casas Southwest, which is where we were before, right?
Yeah.
So we will be there again. So look forward for the September meeting, and that's when Kyle will be. Kyle will be, I believe, coming online.
Oh yes.
So
I went box time tonight and not.
yeah, so Kyle will be. You'll have some really good PowerCLI stuff when Kyle's. I forget his last name. Ruddy, who basically helps write PowerCLI for
He
VM.
is a technical marketing engineer for PowerCLI. The guy who's the product manager lives in the new office.
Yeah.
Jake Robinson.
And I think he might be coming up in September as well. So we're going to have a heavy hitters for PowerCLI. So if we don't cover what you're doing, they will be able to answer just about anything. And if you have complaints about it, they love to hear it, because I sat through one of Kyle's sessions down at VMUG and I learned some stuff that I wasn't expecting. He's great stuff, and look forward to it. I'm going to be coming in and not wanting to take care of all of the leader stuff that I'm going to have to do, so I can really pay attention during his session. So yeah, so it'll be fun. So that is the end of the slide deck. And food's here. So it's a great time to take a break.
Yeah.
So we'll take a break, have some food, and then I'll throw the other slide up. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, before you take a break, if you're not already logged in, if you didn't grab a username little tag, you can, with these sheets, if you're having problems with the domain controller, there's also 2 member machines that should have everything on it that you need so that you can follow along. But you should be able to remote desktop through the internet and get logged in and signed in with your account. The domain is VLab65.
Okay.
So.
And those that are asking about the benefits of VMUG Advantage, I did find that screen. So it'll be up here rotating through, so we make sure and do all the stuff that we needed to. But it is $100 off of VMworld. You get the evals, and you get a bunch of other discounts that are very good. So, all right, go grab some food, guys.
Can I with?
Yeah, that's the one he did. I know it's there. If he doesn't have it,
I don't have it with me now.
I think I have it from last time.
Okay.
I'll find it. He'll throw it in Slack or something. No, or that one actually may be in our file group in the VMUG community.
I went to the library, but
I thought. I thought Dave put it there.
Well, I think I just sent them on the last week. So.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab your Slack and I don't
You better, there's plenty of food out there.
oh,
You're on the VMware codes.
yeah, I'm yeah, I have the
According to the
steps.
rest.
This is the first time that we never in the area. Do I need to email somebody for that?
I have some information about that. Let me find it and I'll get you. I'll find out. I think you just have to go to a web link or on our Facebook page to tell you how to get on it. But I'll find out and I'll let them get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you going to be one?
Thanks for coming up, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been on my to-do list.
Well, now you come over here, now you're saying, oh, no, we got to.
Exactly, that's, I gotta get.
I'm all set. Well, now I'll
Road trip, yeah.
hopefully next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll see where.
I met David like a year ago, and I'm like, I'm gonna come up to one of your meetings sometime.
I'm gonna find the one that he, I
And then, like,
everything, you know, I just put everything.
Yeah.
And it was his grand idea to think, hey, we can have a meeting every month in a year, right? And we have done it so far.
Congratulations, that is
Remember everyone
really
was
difficult.
looking at the leadership conference they gave me when I was like, yeah, we're gonna do 12 of them this year.
Who said that?
Everyone, like when we were going around saying what our group goals were. For
No, we were like, you tried to do them every month. I said, we're gonna go to quarterly, like a social meeting or something like that.
And then I was like, yeah, we're doing 12 this year.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
let me know if you get connected. I've been doing stuff and then you connected.
Connected to, oh, you got your radio. Yep.
You're actually gonna take a break off next one?
Well, I think we're going to Minnesota unless it snows again, so.
That's, I did know last month, but I don't remember, so you're gonna have to ask.
You see,
Was it a month ago we were here? Was it?
page.
Oh, crap. You don't want to release.
Are we doing the guest
So,
network? I forgot what he said.
I should have one for Jake Jones today.
and was it the last time?
Like to use it.
Like the stepmothers.
It's easier every day.
Oh, yeah. Yes. What's you presenting next? What's the next that you're gonna work on?
I can present my own plan. I'm okay with that.
Do you remember how we get signed up to Slack? Is that something we could just add someone to? You want to get signed up to Slack? Do we have a short link? Is there a short link in
There's
there?
that short link that you posted. I've never seen short link before, but
I didn't post it, but was it on the slide
can you
deck?
copy it off the slide deck?
Oh, it wasn't a slide deck.
And then
That's what happens when you don't create the slide deck, but it's there and it's, oh yes, there you go. It is in the slide deck.
And if not, I'll just have to get this email and I can add it manually. Thanks for trying to handle it. What you got? Where's Austin at tonight, right?
I don't know. I actually didn't see him today. I did for about an hour at our morning meeting, but I don't know.
Actually gonna pester some of my guys because they're supposed to be here too.
The drive is probably too far.
Hmm?
The drive is probably too far.
Yeah, probably. Starting back my office is less than 2 minutes out.
It's about the same amount of feet.
All right. I'm starting to this guy's boss trying to pressure me. And my boss saying, don't do that.
You guys work together.
We're gonna lose term. We just lose our own social health.
Right, work.
Yeah. Is that over his? Something like that.
They don't pay me to design. Doesn't show whenever the windows are closed.
What?
Whenever our sessions are closed, then. Just in case.
Just in case.
No reason.
I don't think we're doing any deletion stuff today, so. I don't know, man. I know it works. I'll do it today. I hate to ask, but you leaving the machine yet? I did. Thank you.
Did you try a different plug?
Like outlet?
You say that.
Wait, are you filling off that patient or is it just freezing?
Just freezes.
You technically, the BMP will come on. I mean, so it's not gonna know what's going on in that room. So it's not the world.
That I can say, but that sounds like a client side problem.
I don't know what it would be.
Yeah.
It might be a problem with the interface between the chair and the keyboard too.
Thank you.
Gotta watch out for that.
The possibility always exists. Sorry.
I'm carrying your elbow.
I felt like I caught you with my elbow. Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Is it possible to get that thing? It looks like I can, the short link, because I use Slack, allows me to get there, but it wants a name and stuff to sign in. So I used my VMUG stuff and it rejected it. So I don't know if I need to build a username and password to get into the Slack channel, or it looks like I'm failing the authentication to get into the
If
channel.
you haven't started, I would think, I thought, we'll have to like, we'll make sure and we'll get something for you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Talk to the guy in the blue shirt designating.
All right. I'm failing the authentication to get into the channel, so I didn't know if I needed to go somewhere and create something or how that works for the Slack
I don't
channel.
remember how I started it. I think, was I invited? I don't remember.
I think you were invited. I'm gonna go see if the rules are on Slack.
Well, I have one for another workspace that I'm in. So I just slid over and tried to add the workspace. And
I
it,
think I still had to create one
okay.
there.
I thought I could just add a new workspace is what I was thinking.
Slack needs a new account for every workspace.
Really?
You can go say,
I used to say email.
Okay.
Yeah, because that way when you
Okay. So
get
just
on
need to
your
build an
computer,
account.
you
Okay.
can
Yeah, once you sign into it once on your website, you open Slack on your computer and you add it, it'll just pop in.
populate them all.
That would be the interface between the keyboard and
hey, we should.
mouse. Having a problem there.
Yeah, I get it.
Once somebody releases their app, that's where you use Slack as a two-factor authentication. And if somebody locks himself out, that's how you use it.
You guys have two-factor solution. I need to save them up.
You need like authentications or workstations by VPN.
Remember, you have to run
We'll sell it to
the
our Intel.
app for Windows for it to work.
We'll do it again.
Learned a lot about it over the last.
Must be done today.
And then here's the wonderful mic as well.
Well, no. It's all one user.
Block all attachments for going to the emails, problem solved.
If somebody wants to do this.
And then once it lights up, you can just click it. And it should go red.
I was clicking on the thing on the screen, yeah. Okay,
And you want to make him presenter? Or
do I need to share?
That's right. You got to share your screen, and I got to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, ready, 3, 2, 1.
Good. There you go.
Okay, I'll give you a little, sorry. Let's just practice. All right, I'll give you a little quick overview from the last time that we did the PowerShell training. Are you hearing me on the mic all right? 'Cause
It's just going out, so hopefully.
Okay. I was expecting the speaker, but anyway. Several people made comments that it'd be nice to be able to log in and actually try some of this stuff out. So we did some research. And Ravello used to be, I guess, their own system. Now they're kind of owned by or operated by Oracle Cloud. You can sign up for a free account. And basically what it allows you to do is set up sort of your own virtual infrastructure in the cloud, okay? And you pay for just the CPU time that you use. So you can set up whatever you want, and you also pay for storage, you also pay for networking, but only while it's running is what you pay for. I set this lab up under my free account, and even with the NAS, with storage, which I didn't configure on ESX yet, but you can set up a NAS machine. It's like $1.70, $1.80 an hour to run everything, which I haven't actually run everything yet anyway. So talking Windows 2016 domain controller, a couple of Windows 2016 domain members, 3 ESX hosts. I created 2 6.5s and the 6 just for variety, and the virtual center machine, which is a nightmare because it's a VCSA. And if you've deployed the VCSA, it has 12 disks. Ravello doesn't support 12 disks on a single host bus adapter. So you have to fake it out and get it to create the second one, because in VMware, you can just go add another SCSI controller. Ravello, you don't have that ability. But if you go to sign up for your free account, you're going to end up on Oracle Cloud, and you sign up for an Oracle Cloud account, and they give you a temporary password. It'll also get you into the Ravello systems. I haven't done anything on Oracle Cloud. But once you get on Ravello systems, then you can also do, like you can have a library of your disk images. So everything that you have from uploading VMDKs to actual ISO files. That's how I originally set up the 2016 domain controller, was just right from the Windows ISO file. Then we discovered that Dave had the ability, as being a vExpert, to get this for free. Now, originally when I was doing the research, I dabbled a little bit with Amazon Web Services. And so I kind of started on the path of what can I set up using Amazon Web Services, which would be the same thing. The problem is they don't expose enough of the hardware to allow you to do nesting, which is running an ESX host on their cloud environment. And now that they have their own offering with the VMware on Amazon, then they don't have a way to get around it. So I end up back at this Ravello. All right. Now, the only thing, it kind of works like Amazon, where you've got your locations. I don't see that on his. You set up applications. It's just basically your cluster of VMs. Okay, his as a V expert, he's locked into Europe West. So we're going halfway around the globe to RDP into his boxes. But he gets free 1,000 CPU hours or whatever a month. So even at $1.70, it saves money, but you're kind of locked in. And he doesn't have the ability to add to that. So once he uses his 1,000 hours or minutes or whatever it is, he's done for the month. But you are all more than welcome. You can go set up your own accounts if you want to set up a lab. I can share these VMs with you. I have not. That's how I set his up. After I spent a week getting this lab set up in my environment, he created his account and I just sent all the VMs to him and he can spin them up, with the exception of the one from hell, the virtual center one. I still had to rebuild that from the VMDKs. Just because it's so flaky, it wouldn't even let me copy it over. So if anybody wants a ready-made and they set up an account, I can share the VMs with you and you can skip that. Now, what I will say is what I ended up having to do with the virtual center one, if you want to save your $1.70 an hour Windows, you set up Windows and then you spend 2 hours installing patches. Set it all up on VMware Workstation locally. That's what I did with the domain member ones. And then you can upload them through the Ravello. It gives you an upload tool. You can upload directly from ESX. You can upload from the VMDK. You can upload from an OVF or OVA or whatever you export it as. So you can save all that time. You can get it up there and spin it up and it's ready to go. But you get your own little network. So you can set your IP addresses, your 10. Whatever you want to call it, IP addresses, and you set up services. That's what allows us to RDP in to these boxes. So it opens those ports through an internet IP address. The domain name stays the same. The IP address changes every time you power it off and back on again. There are ways you can have elastic IP addresses, which cost more money, that will keep a static IP address for you. So that's just kind of an overview of where we're at. These are Windows 2016 boxes. So they have the latest PowerShell on them, and I've already installed the modules for PowerCLI. So some of this we talked a little bit about the first time around. I'm just going to go over some of the PowerCLI stuff and then allow Ryan to work on some of the Active Directory. But recently, PowerCLI is now available, like most of all the other PowerShell modules, is through the internet. Used to be you download installers or whatever. PowerCLI was also an installer at one time. Now you actually have to have a machine that is internet connected to install it. As long as it's your workstation, you can just do install module vmware.powercli. You have to run that from an administrative PowerShell prompt. But if it's the first time you've installed any modules, you'll go through some, yes, it's okay to install the NuGet and all these other PowerShell gallery modules and whatnot, but it'll just go pull the whole thing down. And you can also update the module through the internet. The flip side of that, if your servers are not internet accessible, then you have to play around with it a little more and you have to save it from your workstation, copy the files over, and then import it that way because your machine is not internet accessible. And I've since learned this week that Windows Server 2016 no longer has a Windows update.log file in the C Windows directory. If you go open that log file to find out why Windows updates are not being installed, you're greeted with 3 lines of text that say, we don't do this anymore. You have to use PowerShell to get your Windows update logs, okay, which is fine. So you type in this new command called get-Windows update log, and it's supposed to generate it from all these trace files that it keeps now, but it doesn't. Why? Because we're back to the internet thing again. It has to get the symbols from the internet, which you used to be able to download the symbols from Microsoft and install them on the server. If you go to that website, it says we no longer provide the symbols for downloading through the internet. You now just tell it, go to the internet and download your symbols. Their symbol server, yes. So you'll have to go find websites that teach you how to, I was able to hack around the internet access issue, which was easier than trying to download the symbols and then move them somewhere else on the network. But anyway, so just FYI, everything just seems to be internet enabled anymore, even the stupid Windows update log. So if you log in and too many screens open, I don't even know where I'm at. Okay. Once you have the VMware PowerCLI installed, which it should be installed on these machines, in order to activate it in any of your scripts or from the command prompt, you need to run the import-module VMware.PowerCLI. Now this will take a few minutes for it to initialize all the commandlets and whatnot. So if you're following along, go ahead and do that and get that. You should end up with that welcome to VMware PowerCLI screen. Now I got on the first page too, from the default, they want you to be a part of their customer experience program, which everybody wants you to be part of their customer experience program anymore. So there is a command on there after you import the module, you can actually set that to turn that off, and so it stops nagging you every time. In order to do the command I have setting there, the set PowerCLI configuration scope all, you have to launch it as administrator because you're changing it for everybody on that box, which I have already done, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. But once you get your screen, you should be able to do a get module. Wow, it is kind of slow, isn't it? Maybe that's because I'm sharing my screen.
No, it's the box is slow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that slow, but
So you're taking 38%.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe I'll stop that query then. Someone's watching Taskman over there.
Just like to be in the know. Help that. Start working.
There you go. I'll stop that query there.
Yeah. Once you have it loaded, you can run the get module VMware asterisk, and that'll show you what all you have loaded in and tell you what version each of those modules are at. There's most of the things you download as add-ins to PowerShell are going to be a single module, but VMware has got tons of different stuff. There's modules even in there for Site Recovery Manager and VROPS and storage and NSX and all of that view. So there's tons of stuff. I started writing this out and putting commands down, and I thought this was kind of dumb because I've got that PowerCLI version 10 poster hanging in my cubicle, and it's like, why should I just rewrite that? So if you don't have one of those, get one of those, because there are gads of commands that you can type in. I tried to just sort of highlight a lot of them that I've used or that you could potentially have a use for, but once again, this is kind of a Google is your friend. When you figure out what you want to do, then you go Google it and find out how to do it, because it's a lot easier than just trying to poke around. Some things you can do from the command line and find the information that you're looking for. Like if you pull up a VM, and then if you're looking for something specific, then you can start digging around in that. But so once you're in to the you've got the PowerCLI module loaded, the first thing you have to do is you have to connect to something. In our case, we have a virtual center server. You can also use that connect VI server to connect directly to a host. If you don't have vCenter, you can connect directly to an ESX host, and then you're only managing the stuff that's on that one host. But if you do a connect VI server to vc.vlab65.test, that should connect you with your current credentials, which everybody should be able to the vCenter server. And then you'll have access to everything else that's on that vCenter server. I put some notes in there too. VMware has its own credential store. You can poke around with that. Some people get a little flighty about storing credentials on your machine. There's multiple ways of doing it through PowerShell. VMware has its own way. Depends on how critical. I wouldn't do anything with classified information, but and like when you run your scripts and whatnot, at the end of the script, you can do a disconnect VI server. You can disconnect all of them because you can be connected to more than one. And that's another thing that's available in the PowerShell CLI configuration is whether you want to be connected to one vCenter at a time or multiples. There's a switch for the connected VI server command. It's called all linked. If you have vCenter in linked mode, when you connect to one, it will connect to all the rest of them as well if you use the all linked. So you can have, and it can get kind of hairy after a while if you've got so many connections you don't know. You have to watch. When you have connections to multiple vCenters, you can have VMs with the same name in multiple vCenters, and then you have unexpected results when you run your scripts, because instead of getting one value back, you might get 2 or 3. So once you get connected to your vCenter, we talked a little bit about, you can also use that same command to talk to hosts, but if we do get VM host, it should come back with 3. Because those are the 3 vCenters. So right there you can see this is just kind of the table view of what comes back. So you can get the 3 names, their states. If I shut one of them off, then it would show disconnected or unavailable or whatever. Power state, how many CPUs, the memory, all of that, and also the version. So you can see that 2 of them are 6.5, someone's a 6.0. Now, if we took that same thing and we did now, we didn't get any output, but if we remember, we talked the last time about how variables can actually hold objects. It's not just a single value. So if we do a vhost, there's 3 of them in there. So if I just look at the first one, just reference that, remember it counts by 0. There's the details of the first one in the list. Now you can also do if you want to see what options you have against that variable. We talked about this the last time too, where you can get properties and you can get methods, is where you're actually doing something.
That list that it generated first?
Yes.
Does it just choose an arbitrary order if you don't specify?
Yeah, they start out by method, or were you talking about the host list?
Yeah.
You can sort that, but yeah.
Yeah, if you just run get VM host, it's just gonna pull
It's
them
a random.
arbitrary. Now, if you run get VM host and then do the sort and then put that in the variable, it'll go in the way you have it sorted.
Right.
Right.
Now you can see we've got the properties is kind of the information that you saw on the table. There's actually more. It just kind of gave you some default information, but there's a name. So if we do VM host, I can spell it right. Now it's going to list okay, what did I call it? vhost, that's why. So now it just lists the name. Now remember the last time too, we talked about, that was the up arrow. You can, it's just like command prompt. You can use the up arrow to go back and find more information. Remember this one where we did the piping command. So we take the output of that one and we feed it into the next one. And this next one, we're just going to do sort. And the only thing we're showing is the name, so we'll just leave it like that. Now it sorts them in alphabetical order. We could have done that. I could go back and do vhost equals get VM host. Now what's that going to do? That's going to take the get VM host, the output from that, and it's going to send it into the sort command, which is going to sort by the name. And then it's going to put that into the vhost. So now if I do vhost, they're sorted alphabetically. So that answers your question. And sometimes it's a little thing sorting, but if you're watching the progression of stuff and you know if they're not sorted out, you have no idea where you are at and how many more it's got left to do. But at least if you sort it, so it's just kind of a aesthetic thing.
It's like it's sorted by version without the sort.
Could be.
Because that's the only reason I could see to put the 3 at first.
Right, unless that was
And
the
this
order.
time, but the next time you run it, it may be.
Right.
That was something that was asked by Kyle, so that's why I was wondering. And he says, yeah, there is no rhyme or reason when it does that. It really just depends on what's going on. So
It could have been the order that the ESX hosts were added into vCenter too. Now, we looked at the different properties that are available, and this is one of the things that's more into the VMware PowerCLI thing. It's not necessarily a PowerShell thing, but it's called the extension data. And if you look on there, I got a list, basically we do a get VM. There should only be 3 VMs. Once again, the order's not right. And they're all powered off. But if we do there's our, now they're sorted alphabetically. Now if we do find what member options we have in that, there's our list. We've got some methods in there. Changes that most of it is just functional for PowerShell. But we got some properties in here for, we can find out the memory. We can find the memory of that VM in megabytes or gigabytes. Find the name, the notes. Those are the PowerShell notes. How many CPUs, the power state, just kind of basic information. Now there's an entry that's in there. It's called extension data. And that's a little bit, that's what we're talking about. There's a couple of ways that you can get at that. You can reference that directly by using the VM.extension data. And then there's more information that comes after that, more detailed information, pretty much anything you could ever find for the VM or for a host. I mean, this is true of all the objects in PowerCLI, but this extension data is kind of all the details. You can also bring up a thing called get view, which sets it, the difference between get VM and then pipe it to get view gives you all the details. So if I take this same command and actually it took a little longer that time. Now if I see what's available in that VM variable, now there's a ton of stuff. Now if I go back to the original one, we'll take that off. Now, if I do this and type correctly, and eventually it'll catch up maybe. You're going to end up with the same stuff. You can either use the get view to get all the extra data right off the bat, or you can start with extension data. It just means more typing because you type VM to dot extension data dot the rest of the information. And we'll do a little bit of this here in a minute. You can see, seems like we're stuck staring at the screen. Now some of your methods that you have available on that are some of what you would do from the vCenter GUI screen. If you want to clone your VM, if you want to add a disk, if you want to remove a disk, create a snapshot, you can all do that now from the command line, but that wasn't available before in just the basic version, so to speak. You need that the detailed version. So we've got that stored in here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set our test and just make it equal to one object, so it saves me some typing. So this variable now is only the first VM that's in our list. So if I do that and display the information, now you can see this is all available to you. And these things up here at the top that start with VMware.vim. Blah, 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 blah. Those are like, kind of think of this as looking at your file directory tree. Okay, those things at the top are another subfolder. So there's more information under those. Some of these items here that have the curly brackets can have like disabled method. In the curly brackets, all these comma separated, there's multiple values in that one property. Okay, but if I go up to summary, you can see summary up at the top is a VMware.vim virtual machine summary. So if I do VM now summary, I'll see everything that's underneath that. Oh, that's right, we're on test. Test summary will give us just the one. Okay, well, VM just gives me the VMware's name for it, which is virtual machine.-vm.1, but then there's more subfolders under there. Overall status is there, but I can do now test.summary.runtime. And then this will give you, okay, this is the ID of the host that it's running on, the connected state, power state, tools installer mounted. You know, if you go to install the VMware tools, that would become a true. There's additional information. And so we can do that again, test summary config. This is the part where, you know, a lot of times you end up just kind of typing everything to find the piece that you're looking for. You can try Googling it. So under test summary config, if I just do test summary config guest full name, I'll come back with Microsoft Windows XP Professional.
I got it working.
Good. So this is where you dig in, and I think towards the end where I have some examples, I just kind of pulled out of some of the scripts that I do to run against vCenters to collect data. So you can take all this information, like if you want to find all the guests' full names for all your VMs in your environment, you can run this. If I do the same thing with vm.summary config and guess it, guest full name, all three VMs are Windows XP Professional. Yeah. If I do vm.name, comma, vm.summary config, is this going to work? Or do I have to do no? No. Thank you.
You're gonna have to output it. There you go.
Right hostess. So if I do,
Right output. What about right output? Right output. You having problems with our host?
no, it's,
Oh.
I should do a for each. This will work.
There's plenty more sandwiches out there if anybody would like more. But
Or not.
Yeah, you have it in at the end of for each. That could be part of your issue. Try that. There we
Okay,
go.
so there's your name and the, I don't know why this won't go away now.
Looking at my host, your host.
I'm gonna say, or is it on your desktop?
Ah. I don't even know what it is.
Windows has decided. That's what you need right now.
We start exploring?
Yeah. Okay, well, whatever. So with that for each loop, we were going for each VM in there. But one thing that I use the PowerShell scripts for is going through like all the VMs, all the hosts, getting all the information. And like you can see in some of the examples, you can see where some of this information can be found. You put all that in an array, you can export it into an Excel spreadsheet. So now you can generate an Excel spreadsheet every week, every other day, once a month, whatever, and keep track of all your details. And you can find all those details back up here, whatever you're looking for, we can go back to guest information. There's your tools version. So if you want, and see, they duplicate information that's in there too. So you can find it in several different trees, kind of like duplicate files. So there's the guest full name again. We could just go test guest.guest full name. The VM's not running, so you're not going to see the host name, the IP address, the subnet mask. You can pull, VMware's gotten better over the years, but you can, some of that information used to be only available from within the guest. So you would do like a WMI query to get your IP address, but now VMware captures that. So you can add that to your Excel spreadsheet too of information if you want to see, if you want a list of all your VMs, their names, what their operating system, their IP address, their net masks. And I'm a big fan of Excel because you dump all that into Excel. Now you can manipulate that data-wise. If you want to find all of them with tools version that's less than whatever that 100252 or whatever, if you need to, and there's actually a setting in there, I think, isn't it? Tools running, tools, yeah, tools, guest tools current. So if you want to sort your output, find, or you could do it from here. I mean, it's not going to tell me anything different, but I can do VM where, some of this we talked about the last time. So I'm going to take all 3 VMs, and I'm going to pipe them into this. And I want to see where are we, guest dot tools version equals 10252. Now it's going to list all 3 because they're all clones of each other. Now it gave me all 3 objects. If I just wanted to see the name, if I go back and I put a parentheses, so inside the parentheses, it's basically going to come back with all 3 VMs. All I want to see is the name. Boom, boom, boom. Now, everything that I'm doing at the VM level, you can also do at the host level. Those are objects. You can do that at the data store level. So if you do get data store, which you're going to see 3. Now, if I disconnected from this vCenter and connected directly to one ESX host, and then I run this command, how many data stores am I going to see? Right. You're only going to see what's connected to that host. See, this is, and again, if I were connected to multiple vCenters and I run get data store, I'm going to see all the data stores across all the vCenters. So that's where it can kind of, at some point in time, I have to make my brain single threaded too. So it's just like, I don't do multiple vCenters. It's just one at a time and process them and make it really simple and easy. Let's see what else. If we look up here, you see the alarm, declared alarm states. If I do VM guest declared alarm state. Did I type it wrong? Guest declared alarm it lists somewhere. I'm missing that. Okay, so let's just do test guest network. Oh. There we go. Now, a VM can have multiple NICs, so you can have multiple networks. So in this case, we don't. So you only see one. But when you run that at that level, you're going to get every network. So you can use that again if you want to find all the VMs that are connected to your prod network, whatever you have it named, or your dev network or whatever like that. That's how you can manipulate it. I mean, this is the information. I mean, this is kind of in its brain as Excel. So you have the ability to filter it using the where object and the sort and all that other stuff to find specifically what you're looking for, this is the key. All right, you got 3 VMs, whoop-de-doo-dah. You can go look at it. They're all clones of each other, so they're all identical. But if you need to run a report because next weekend is patch weekend and you want to find all of them that you need to go update the VMware tools on, this is how you do it. Instead of scrolling, I mean, yeah, you could do it from the GUI. You could scroll down through, sort by VMware tools and find all that.
If you have enough, but if you have
Yeah.
a data center with
Yeah.
16 hosts in it, I don't want to do that.
Right. And with the methods that you have available, I mean, I can take this, I don't even know which one that was. Test power on. Thought I saw that. Power on VM. Okay. Yes, it's not case sensitive, but it does like it to be spelled right. Power on VM. Now, the methods, you put the open and close parentheses at the end. Some of them take values, which would normally go in there. If it's looking for, just hypothetically saying power on VM, yes. Like, are you sure you want to power that on? You put yes in there. That's not the case in here, but some things you would have to add whatever other information it's looking for. So if I type this, what is it looking for?
You're telling the power on, right?
Hmm?
Does that actually turn the power, print power on for me?
Oh, it wants to know the host. If you look at the information up here, it wants what host do you want it powered on. That little window is kind of annoying. So what host do you want it on? It's not running, so we can't reboot the guest, but we could initiate. See, there's nothing that goes in there. So you could just issue a command. Well, let's do that. I'm asking too much of it now.
I'm not running a query.
So if we take this one,
Who's running, when did that come out?
Just 20 minutes, okay?
okay, so it's coming on. So we should see, oh, if I do test, which should be that VM anyway. Yeah, VXP1. Where's the power state? So in the runtime.
Okay.
Yeah, power state right there.
Just want to check my good last one.
Notice how it still says it's powered off. Why does it say it's powered off even though I just told it to turn on? I just looked, that's the VM. I just went into vCenter and I told it to power on. But when I look at the variable, it still says it's powered off.
Still stored values, current value.
Right, exactly. So if I do test equals get VM, I want this one specifically. So VXP1. Now I'll do test. Did I pick the right one? Or did it power on?
Just because my new model was one.
Oh, it hasn't powered on
I
yet.
already installed it a while ago.
Takes too much effort to power on Windows XP. Just as another side note, there's another little hitch running a virtual host with a VM on your virtual host. They won't power on by default because they'll come back with some error about an unsupported hypervisor. There is a, let me do that. Oh, see, it wants to know connect. So if I look at edit settings on this VM and move it over for the rest of the world to see.
Not if calculator has anything to do with it.
Yeah. There is a switch that you can add to it under advanced. If you've ever had to add a setting on a VM. VMX allow nested to true. Will then bypass that error message and allow you to turn it on. Okay, so what do you want to know? Oh, it's got a serial. There you go. And I created these XPs from VMware Workstation and then exported them as OVAs and then uploaded them, and now it's running.
Now it's giving me the error. So I'm getting that.
Now it shows powered on. So when you run this, you're getting only a snapshot of what's happening right now.
Just if you're storing it in a variable.
Yes. If I take that out, now what were my... Shutdown guest. Do a reset VM. And there's so from the command line, and it'll still show up in the recent tasks on Virtual Center. So yeah, that kind of freaks people out too, that keep their Virtual Center GUI open and then all of a sudden you run a script and it's, what are you doing? Especially if it says delete VM from disk. Yeah. Oh, is that what that command does? Yeah. And you can do that too. I mean, not that it means a whole lot in our case. Get VM with VXP. So if you're looking for specific ones with names or something like that, and really want that to go away.
It's really annoying.
Yeah. So I can do get VM by server esx2.vlab 65.test. Or its location. Server is looking for a vCenter. So then it only gives me one because I'm looking for all the VMs on that host. Now, the way this is set up, I created, there's also data center and also cluster, which oops. It's going to give me 3 because that's all we got. But if you're looking for a specific cluster or you're looking for a specific data center in your vCenter or on your ASX host or whatever you're connected to, you can filter down your list. So that just helps you. My boss always says there's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay, so depending upon what you're looking for information-wise, there's a lot of ways. You can just give me all the VMs and then filter by ones that have a name or the cluster or whatever, or you can get that from the start or whatever. Just some PowerShell hints when some of these scripts that I have that generates Excel spreadsheets and runs information, it's a lot easier to just go into the vCenter, get all the VMs in a variable, and then whatever else you got to do down the line, you've already got them. You took that performance hit once to get all that information into one variable instead of keep searching for VMs. Because if you're searching for a VM, it's looking through vCenter, which depending upon where you are, it's got to connect out to vCenter, right? If you just load all that once and put it in the variable, now it's up in memory. Now, it's like your flash versus your SSD versus your spindle type. Now you can process that a lot faster. And so you can do the same thing, set it all up in the beginning, get all the VMs, get all the hosts, get all the clusters, get all the folders, get all the data centers, and then do all your searching from those after that. And in a heartbeat, it's done. I threw in some examples, some stuff like getting host information. You can see the first line I've got under host information, admin creds. So depending upon where your vCenters are and what kind of credentials, by default, it tries to use whatever you're currently logged in as to connect. In our cases, you can connect because your credentials are set up in vCenter to allow you to log in. But if you have a case where you've got vCenters in multiple different sites that require different credentials, you can request that. So we'll do, this is a PowerShell, not a PowerCLI command. And what it'll do is it'll pop up and you can type in your credentials, whatever you want. So you can collect those in a secure way. Now, what do I have in that? Password is a secure string. Username is stored in clear text. Yes, there are ways of saving that. There are ways of decrypting that and displaying it on the screen. Generally, from the PowerShell, your ways of decrypting secure string or saving the secure string, which is encrypted into a disk file, is also dependent upon your user that you were logged in on and your machine. So, because I have done this before where I will take those credentials and I will save them to a text file and you will just see your encrypted string with passwords. Somebody else logged in on that machine cannot decrypt them because it's part of that account. It's a Windows thing that I'm logged in as. And I also cannot take that text file and copy it to another server and use it myself because it's also dependent upon the machine. So I have to recreate it on every machine that I do that on. So that is an option, okay? But then you can use those credentials.
We're just trying to troubleshoot when you think you can just copy that cred file back and forth between another machine. That was fun trying to figure out one that. But then you read some more and you're like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. It's nice security.
Or I can do this. So now, even though I'm logged in as me, Now it's going to connect me as jkirk. So that's how you can connect across domains to other vCenters with different credentials. You can, if you're connecting to this vCenter, use these credentials. If you're using a different one, whatever. So if you need to use credentials, like in our case, and this is kind of a common thing too in enterprises now, you have your account is a standard user account that you logged into on your workstation. But for all your domain data center administrative tasks, you have an elevated account. So you can provide that elevated account and still run it on your workstation by prompting for or providing the credentials at the beginning. So some of these other commands, you can get the VM host network adapters. So we can get VM host for ESX1. This isn't going to work either. So what do? Get help. Get VM host network. Oh, VM host. How quaint. So as you're putting together your script to gather host information, you can find not only VM-NIC 0, you want to know the MAC address, whether it's DHCP, what the IP address is, all that other kind of stuff, and what kernel adapter it's attached to. You can search for, okay, I want to know VMK0 is usually the management. So you can look, here's your MAC address. So the networking people want to know what's the MAC address. There it is. There's the IP address, subnet mask, and the device name. If you've got two of them in there, because you've got one set up for management, then you got another one set up for vMotion. You can have VMK1, VMK2, whatever. You can find those. It also works. There's a whole slew of commands for distributed virtual switches or virtual distributed switches, whatever you want to call them. So you can get all your networking information. So you can put that together. There's, for the host, you can get the VM count. You can get your EVC mode, whether you've got that turned on for a cluster for the host. You've got whether the host is in maintenance mode, you can put the host into maintenance mode or take it out of maintenance mode. CPU information, the same kind of information is available for the VMs as well if you want to know, how many CPUs. The other one is whether or not hot CPU enable is on or memory hot swap, that kind of thing. All of that kind of information on your host. You can get your HBAs. You can get details about your HBAs. You can even get, if they're fiber HBAs, you can get your worldwide names. I mean, there's tons of Service Console NIC details, vMotion. I put in there too, because this is one that comes up a lot, is finding the remote management card information on a host. For Dell's, they're DRACs. For HP's, they're ILOs. That takes a little more finesse because it's not exposed directly through these commands, but you can get them through, what is this? Yeah, the WS management, the WebM. Now, one thing that has changed recently is you used to have to log into, you have to get to that address that's in there to get that information. You used to have to log in with the host credentials, which is the root account or a local account you created. You don't have to do that anymore. because now there's a new command that they've added, which vCenter gives you that information. vCenter can give you a ticket that allows you to make a one-time connection to get that information without having to provide the root username and password. Because depending upon what site it is, they'll have different root credentials, which is really annoying. So it's nice that once it's added into vCenter, vCenter can give you that ticket that says you're allowed to connect to this host to get this information, and that's in there. So whether it's a Dell, it's one set of WebM commands, or if it's a HP, if it's another set, if it's something else, I'm sorry. You know, but that's really nice information to put in your spreadsheet with host details, because at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, when the host is gone and you can't connect to it, you can't SSH to it or anything like that, it sure is nice, because now it's not in vCenter anymore, it's disconnected. It's nice to have that somewhere where you can pull up the DRAC IP address and get logged into it and find out what's wrong with it.
Now I want to sit down and play with that because I didn't know you could do that. So it'll be fun trying to play with it.
That's why I included it in there, because that was a lot of work. There's several places you can find it on the web, and they all have the exact same thing. But yeah, I forget. I ran across it by accident, a way to get a ticket, and then I looked up whatever that command is. SIM service ticket, where you can get that, and it's like, oh, acquire SIM service ticket. I wonder what that does. Maybe it acquires a SIM service ticket. You can get that from vCenter, and it allows you to connect. And so no more root credentials, which is a nuisance. But I'm going to stop here so that Ryan can do some AD stuff. And there's more information on another example here for VMs. But what I would encourage you to do between now and next month is, if there are things that you specifically want to do with PowerCLI vCenter related, let us know, and we can put that together. I mean, this is like really high level overview of this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, like everything PowerShell related or everything IT related, you've got to get into it, and you got to play around with it, and you got to, you know, accidentally maintenance mode some hosts and power off a couple others, and, you know, things like that before it, okay.
And the time to do it is when you have a little bit of time and you have a use case to do it. You know, and that what I'm going to go over here in a little bit was a use case that someone had related to phone numbers. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about, and just different ways of going over some stuff.
You guys are going back and forth on that.
There may have been some Slack group talking about it, so it gave me, that was my inspiration for tonight. But we're going to just talk about that and how this all works. So
Before you get too far, Tim, how did you do the domain authentication when we initially logged in? So if I just wanted my domain credentials to pass through PowerCLI and log in to my vCenter, how did you set that up?
That it's already, it by default uses Windows.
Do you not have your vCenter joined through your domain?
vCenter is joined for me. And when I log in and I do the IP address, it actually prompts me for credentials.
Oh, you can type dash using dash password.
But no, he did it where you just do connect VI dash server, the IP address, and boom, the credentials went through.
Dash the credentials.
Isn't there some, you're doing it through IP address and not host name?
Yes.
I've run into that before. There's a difference in Windows, the way it handles an IP address. I don't think, I'm just going to throw out a guess. I don't think it's a PowerCLI or a VMware problem. I think it's a Windows thing, because I've had that with running remote commands.
One way bringing in a domain, the other is just straight IP address.
Because when I do it, my credentials are already passed through because I'm using the domain name.
Yeah.
Of the DNS.
If you hit the IP address, you don't have the domain.
Yeah, I'll try to
know
the DNS
necessarily.
address. I didn't set the DNS address, so I don't know what it is.
Get DNS. Filter the IP address, see what comes back. Come on. Get help, star, DNS star.
I got it.
I'll tell you what happened, in our case, and we still don't know why, we had a bunch of Windows 2008 non-R2 machines that fell out of DNS. They lost their DNS registration. So I couldn't connect to them by their host name because now we had no DNS registration. Because you can remotely tell machines to, you know, how you do your IP config / register DNS. You can do that remotely. But to do that, you have to do it with an IP address because there's no host name. And they wouldn't work. And yeah, Google it because you have to go in and you have to change something on your machine, and I'd have to dig it up in my notes to find it, but there's something that you have to tell Windows that you're okay with IP addresses. There's something different, like how Kerberos works, like because you're using an IP address and you're not using a host name, Kerberos doesn't work, and then it won't use whatever the secondary authentication. It was kind of flaky.
So theoretically, that would make sense. Without that domain, how does it know what domain to pass in on the user?
Right.
Necessarily.
Yeah. That's not good, okay.
All right. Thanks, Tim, for what we're covering now. Why don't we all take a break? We still have more food out there. And none of us want to take it home, so go out there and take some food and come food. Get some break, take a break. And then we'll come back and we'll kind of finish it off with some other weird stuff that I've come up with.
Yeah, so I've got this application called MMONG, and that's what I use to save all my RDS sessions in. That works.
Yep.
But my regular remote desktop client doesn't.
Can you try launching, like doing command for Windows run and that's the error?
I haven't tried that.
And try running that one.
What is this about?
It just locks up on MSTSC.
Go for it.
Sorry, what?
But it's there.
TSC.
Okay.
And save that one.
Well, so this is what I was using.
But there's two versions of it.
Is there? Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
There's actually an old version of it. And there's known bugs on that version.
Just to figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
For the client. And we found that when that CRED SST update came out. Yeah, we found that.
Well, I'm glad you know.
There were actually two versions of it.
Boy, that's annoying.
Can't get your calculator, can you?
Can we go in?
Yeah, but there was an older version. You couldn't get it there. It's gonna take that's where.
Nice. They made a button to reset that.
Nope, still won't go away.
It doesn't matter what you're on. It's so weird.
Yeah, this thing's got
Just so you know, Tim, every time you talk, I go away with something that I didn't know. So thank you for that. I don't know if it happens to you, but for me, it
Sadly, every week I walk into work, I go away with something I didn't know.
I know, it's fun.
Fun is a relative term. It just depends on the timeline that you need it done in, right?
Yeah, well, and that's, and PowerShell is, especially when you're first learning, it's not going to save you time. It's not.
No, I'm discovering that.
But putting that time in the beginning, then it gets, because I sat here and cranked out a bunch of stuff while he was. But it's kind of like database administration. Once you know where all the data is, especially in like Active Directory stuff, once you kind of know where that stuff is and how to get to it, it just my database guy said, hey, I need such and such out of our database. He goes, okay. I'm like, it's taking me half a day.
I had some convoluted script. It was like 14.
It's gone. It beats calculator.
Now EXE, and I just killed it.
Wow. That's a great name for a calculator to open with.
This is like, I'm sorry. That was just,
the entire video capture has that nice white box around.
Even though you're giving me attention right now?
Well, that was great out. Hit my back. Reset basic function hash.
Recompute. The problem that would be fixed with the 5-minute reboot, you spend 2 hours trying to solve.
Because it just doesn't seem fair that you have to initialize a complete reboot just to kill a calculator. I mean, come on, let's really stop and think about it.
There's Windows though.
Windows.
I was saying to him, it doesn't matter what OS it is, they all have their quirks, it's just a matter of time before you find them.
So it's nice.
What I want to do is I want to call into Microsoft Help Desk and tell them I've got a process that's using all of my CPU. I've got 16 CPUs on the server. Well, what's the name of the process? Calc.exe?
Yeah, I might want
What's the file hash to that, please?
Running off 365.
Yeah.
They released a button that fixes your help bar service. Will take up 100% of your CPU power.
The what?
The 80 sync tool.
Yeah, the 80 sync tool. Oh. Yeah, I logged into his DC and I was like, oh, you know, I just run this command now, we're gonna grab all this stuff and yeah, I'm like, shit.
Well, here's your first thing. I don't run the AAD sync tool on my domain controller.
Yeah, because you have ADFS set up.
You can run on any machine that works.
You can run on anything.
I can, and I do. I have a machine specifically to sync. But I still have to sync my users because I still have to apply licenses to them.
I had an MFP that didn't like it, that I didn't have it on its domain controller.
We've got it
I have a VM.
Yeah.
I have licensing.
But I don't see the point of taking up an extra 40 gigs for a single VM to run under the AC. His environment makes sense because he has like 5,000 some users, but his environment has 160.
How many users do I have? I should pull that up.
Well, yeah, just do it in user counts.
I don't want to know that number.
We do.
You better start that one now. That might take a little bit to get
Actually, it matters.
done.
Currently.
Hey, for MSP, once again, on your shoulders on storage.
That was before his fault.
I agree. Still is complicated. I still blame.
Dude, I better remote in to do that.
that.
Yeah, I shouldn't try to pull that across the VPN.
I disagree a lot with things.
I had new purchasing power and then you did that.
Hey,
For the next session, by the way, while y'all thinking about it, I want to do a deep dive in remoting. Does that sound like something that might be interesting to you? Remoting from your machine, basically PowerShell remoting into other machines. Okay, so that I was going to try to do a little bit of that today, but it didn't. I ran out of time. But for my next session, probably going to do a nice deep dive in some of the things you can do with PowerShell remoting and some of that stuff, and then running script blocks against that PowerShell remoting and stuff like that. If that sounds interesting, that's what I'm going to probably focus on next time.
Have you ever made sorry, did we decide where we are progress yet?
No, that's next leader call probably.
Yeah, I'll figure that out, but.
We were going to talk to somebody, but I thought actually we kind of were thinking your place, but
Your place. I think we're also looking at the library, but
yeah, well, that was
lady was on vacation. I tried to call, and they're like, "Oh, call back when this person's in." I called back when that person's in, find out they are on vacation.
Why again, that was an option?
well, and I think that was maybe a fallback. So, but we didn't want to I didn't want to say it because I didn't know.
No, yeah, you're good. I'm trying to weigh the option because his good conference room is in the back, your good conference room is in the back. This one's off the beaten path. We're trying to find somewhere that just walk in.
Yeah. Our main conference room will see, which is right up front of the seat.
Well, we would have made that today. I think we're actually a little over attendance just because all the other stuff's going on. I know I texted my friend and he's like, I'm at the bed race.
Bed race over at PowerShell, really?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Three Rivers Festival is now. I don't live up here, so I don't know that. I don't care.
That's probably we had last time for the
Pathfinder test.
Right.
I used to, well, I was thinking even someplace at the school corporation too. I just didn't know if anybody wanted to drive down to Huntington because we're all more centrally up here, but.
It's a nice country drive.
I mean, you can make the argument you drive up here.
Yeah, but that's one of me compared to like 20 of y'all, so.
There's two.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two.
Come on now. Not all about you.
8,024, by the way. That was just get 8 user.
You think on its own server makes sense to you, because your Delta Sync's probably taking what, 35 minutes?
No, I think only about 5, but there's not much churn.
What about his initial?
You mean like what I'm going to do here in a couple of weeks where I recreate every single user account for my students? 400 line PowerShell code getting ready to go.
So you delete every user?
I don't delete them. I deactivate them. I disable them all.
Okay.
I disable. And I've got in the title of my students, there's in the title, they're all labeled students. I grab all students, put them in a folder in AD called disabled users or disabled students, and disable them as I put them in there. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is then my 400 line 400 plus line, because I'm going to go through and adjust it again. It's time to get in there and have some time to code and adjust a couple other things I want to tweak out. That we'll go through and see if the account's there. If the account's there, enable the account, update the password, do all the stuff to it that I do.
Isn't that illegal
What?
to single out all your disabled students?
Discrimination.
I didn't say where I worked.
Just slowly see disciples as they just pass. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but 8,024.
Now, is that enabled users or is that include disabled users?
That was just get here. Well, filter.
Go on the screen first.
Nope. Oh, I gotta actually switch screens
Do you
here.
ever delete users out of your AD or do you stay by best practice?
My student accounts that have been gone for more than a year. So my graduating class, I'll leave this graduating class in there for a year, just in case for some reason they didn't graduate and they left, but then they come back and try to re-enroll. I'll leave their stuff there so they can get some of their stuff back. But I understand the point of it, and I've contemplated that, but it's just I don't need that extra cruff sitting around there. So.
I may have to leave your account. Maybe after we shut everything up to SharePoint, all group environments. There's too many single permissions now, so like if you remove someone, like you delete someone, all that's left is their security identifier. So when you log in and look at it, it's like, huh, where did that was?
That's why God made the word disable account. But here's the other thing. I don't like to assign permissions to users. It has to be a group. And do you know how hard that is to change when
When you walk in an AD environment that's probably almost older than you.
again, remember, I still have fonts being applied from the domain. Yeah, that's not.
We had a guy come back after 15 years and want to know where his files were. Said, "What happened, man? Let me transfer you to HR."
You think on how? We get a special.
I just want to know what he thought. How he thought that was never going to reappear. That's kind of what I want to know. Like, how do you think that was?
Let me get on my call. Just like there.
Yeah. I mean, where were they stored? They're on a tape.
Yeah,
It looks like the bottom.
Yeah.
How many days from store?
Yeah.
Never got purged.
LS 120 drive.
All right.
Or tell me the exact file path and I'll find it.
They still had a safe with microfilm at Parkview in the old Rocky data center.
That's not surprising.
We're still doing tape on the umbrella.
What company still has Microsoft 3.1 cut?
Just
Some type of cardiology program.
undetermined. IT didn't really know what it did. We were afraid to touch it because we thought we might need a doctor's permission to touch it. Maybe.
I mean, I had to have an XP machine that's in a crate in our closet that's been there for 10 years.
I had to educate someone twice my age on how to launch Windows in 3.1. She brought it up and it came up with command prompt. What happened to Windows? You have to launch it. Huh? It's an application in this world. Oh.
Yeah, so the worst thing I ever did was PWV a machine that was about ready to die in my financial system for my old financial system that had been replaced. Now it's a VM. I can never get rid of it. I can't shut it off. We tried to shut it off. It took less than 24 hours for the payroll clerk to say, hey, that machine's not working anymore. And because I PWV'd it, I didn't have the heart to say, I'm sorry, it died. Because it was about ready to, and I could have gotten away with it, but I didn't. I know, but then there's the Veeam backup, so.
I don't know what happened to that.
Okay.
It just disappeared.
So just a couple of things that I actually wrote out, some of the stuff I'm going to do and we're going to go over. And my part's not going to be very long, but this is more of just kind of combining a couple of things and doing it. Just so you know at the top, because I've got several different commands in here, if you're ever going to do a presentation and or if you have a bunch of scripts that are just one-liners that you have stored in a file, throw return 0 at the top of your thing, because that way if you accidentally hit run all, guess what? Nothing's going to happen because it's just going to return 0. That can save a lot of things if you have a bunch of destructive things later down in your script. I learned that the hard way, and now I throw it at the top of a script like that just to make my life easier. So my little displeasure to help you guys in the future. So what? If you go into the machines that you guys are IDP'd into and look around, there is a OU in there called FTW for Fort Wayne. In there is a users folder that I got bored last night and added a bunch of like 200 and some users from the old Contoso domain and added them just to give us something to play with. If you want the script to ever do that on your own domain controller, just so you have some users to play around with and have fun with, I can point you in the right direction and or share this script somewhere with you at some point. But I am a big proponent, especially with working with PowerShell. Set up a domain controller, a simple domain controller that has some users like this. If you can make it similar to your environment and then start just playing around. You could also, if you really were bored, you could write a PowerShell script to export all of your users to a CSV and then import them into your test domain. If you have 8,000 like I do, it's not something you do, but for me, this 200 users is a great way of testing, and it allows you to play around with. So I'm going to be messing with these tonight and some of the things that we're talking about. In the Slack channel, was it last week or the week before? Someone was talking about telephone numbers in Active Directory. So this is kind of some of the things that I would have done to start, and we're going to kind of work down of how I would have done some of this. If you ever have never played with it, we'll just start with the first thing. If you want to see a user and all of the Active Directory of variables associated with this, I'm just going to show you this command right here to do that. Get AD user, property star, and then the username, and then you can see, hit the right command again. See, there's why I put that. And if you're in the ISC, it's highlighting it, and then the next one will run the selection. This will scroll through every single variable. And if you have Exchange in your environment, it's even bigger of some of the stuff that you can see in here. You can also do that same sort of thing, and I'm going to just change what I'm doing in here. You can also run the get member command that Tim was talking about as well. Run that same get member command so you can kind of get an idea of some of the available properties that you want to go into here. But what we were looking for specifically, if I scroll down here so I can talk about what I'm doing next, and I kind of commented my code, and I can put this up there if anybody ever wants to mess with it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull all of the users, and this is kind of janky. I kind of pull that? But what I want to specifically show when we're talking about this is the search base available. So because I put it all in the Fort Wayne users category, I'm only working on a specific OU in the environment. That allows me to be able to narrow down where I'm working at. So this is great if you have, in my case, a different school and I only want to work on a specific school's account. So like we close 2 schools in my corporation and opened a new one, and I need to see, all right, all the users from this school, I need to move to another OU. So this allows you to kind of focus that in a little bit to do that search base. And just so you know, I'm lazy and I don't want to try to write this all the time. So what I'll do is go to the users, the particular OU that I want to go to and get that information from. Oh, and it's already there. Go to the attribute editor, go to distinguished name, view to distinguished name, and that is the search base. Makes your life so much easier. Sysinternals also makes a very cool AD Explorer tool that it gives you that type of information as well. And just so you know, if you don't have the attributes tab open in Active Directory, just so you know, that's under View Advanced Features. I told all of my users, if you don't have that turned on, you're not working in Active Directory correctly. So that, again, that will now, so what we can do here is now we're going to see, and again, we were talking about telephone numbers. So what I've done here is I've taken all of the properties. Just so you know, when you do properties, when you just run this, let me just do this like this. If you run this command to begin with, you are only going to get a select set of properties from AD user. Control C. Stop. Yeah, you're only going to get a select set of users. You're only going to get select set of properties from just the straight get AD user, and you'll notice telephone is not one of them. So to get telephone, the easy way to begin with is -properties star. When you get more comfortable in doing some of that stuff and you start writing that code, and especially if you're going to do code that does a bunch of things like my 400 lines of code that I use for users, I don't do property star because it just increases the amount of time you do that. I'll actually put the specific properties in there that I'm looking for. But again, for tonight, I'm just playing around and trying to get some of this done. But so for right now, let's just see what the AD, if I do this, I just want to see the name of the user and the telephone number of those users in there. And I'm popping it into a format table. What you saw before was a format list. So this is a table. It's going to have a column of names and a column of telephone numbers. So I'm going to scroll up here just so you see. It's a different way of laying it out. So format table, it's an outpoint view. So format list and format table.
So basically the way I'd be reading that is all the properties that are name and telephone number, and then you're just formatting them that way.
Yeah, and I'm outputting, and I threw the auto size at the end of it because that way it just makes it look prettier. I'm an Excel guy and I like everything to look pretty, not because if you have some of those times, especially if you have multiple columns on there, some of them will truncate so you can't see the whole thing, so I throw auto size at the end of it. With those two columns, I'm not going to have a look at. If you go through here, you'll notice too that we had an intern fill in some of the forms when we were creating our users, which gets back to what some of this is. So for some reason, the intern really messed up and we have some weird telephone numbers up there. So now that makes me think, all right, there's a format there that I need to look at. So what I'm going to do is now I'm actually going to use a where clause to try to find phone numbers not in the proper format. So that's where, we're going to again run that same base search, which if you come up with a search like that, you get used to do that. So like I have a base search that I use for students that I kind of have filtered in there already. I'll go back and pull that from all sorts of things. And then now I'm going to start paring that down. We're going to use a where clause, which is just basically a way of filter. It's a filter for me, and I'm going to use the filter on. And did we talk about this last time? This phrase right here. Okay, so because we're doing a one-liner here, and there is a proper name for that I just don't currently remember off the top of my head. I just remember how to use it. I am not a teacher by trade. I just make all their computers work. Basically what you're doing with this one-liner, because I've piped the output of that command into this next where command, is you're taking, all right, whatever that object is, you're basically just calling those objects and dot notating it. So like Tim was doing when trying to get the power state on that, I'm doing the same thing. So that telephone number that we got in the list before, I'm basically dot notating.
So it's basically a placeholder
for each object. Yeah, it's a shorthand for each object, and it's just from the prior part of the piping string. Exactly. And what I'm doing is I'm throwing it not like, so I'm basically saying anything not like this. So and it took me a couple minutes to remember what the single character wildcard was, but I found it, which is not doing it. Usually I do star on everything, but for this one, I wanted to find a specific format. So anything not a specific format. So I'm going to find every user who does not have the telephone number in this specific format. And again, I'm going to output it again into my output to the screen because I'm just kind of trying to narrow down what I'm looking for. So let me go back to here and show you what that looks like in the output. And I don't know why that was killing the processor earlier, but that's what I was doing about the time that someone yelled at me about using all the processor. So now, obviously, and you can then pipe that to a user variable and then find out how many you have, but I like to work big, work to small when I'm doing my things because I don't want to have to try to troubleshoot 20 lines of code. I'd rather troubleshoot 1 or 2 lines of code that I know is working. So that's just, especially when I'm starting to build something from scratch, that's how I'm going to do. I noticed, obviously, we had a specific intern that messed up really bad on some of these phone numbers. So I'm going to start working on just these, I'm going to call them the 20 phone numbers. That's what I'm going to work on first. So what I have got is another filter. Roll down here. Actually, it was in the CSV and it just kind of worked out. So it gave me, again, I was looking at the data and said, oh, cool. That was a helpful use because I was going to add the +1, but we could go back and do the +1 at some point if we ever wanted to mess with that as well. Same sort of concepts though. Find what you're looking for instead of not like, do a like with that, and then we can just append something to the front of that. So you get these concepts and you have these shells and never, ever, ever delete one of your PowerShells. Throw it in a folder into OneDrive or, throw it up to GitHub or something. Keep that stuff because I'll go back and look at something, even one of my test scripts that I was trying to narrow the stuff down and use stuff from that later. So now I'm just going to find, again, using that filter, I'm going to do a like now before it was a not like. Now I'm going to do a like on anything that is the prin 20 prin star. So that'll get me what I'm looking for now. And if you guys want to follow along, you can, but I just playing around with here. And that should get me, all right, there are all my users. All of them have the phone number the way I want. It's in the telephone number. So now we get to have fun trying to figure out how to correct that. So now we're going to have some fun. We're going to take that, basically that query we had before. That's exactly what I want to query on. So I'm going to save that query into users. And now I'm going to do a for each. And this is not normally how I would name my variables and my for each variables, but it works really well for things. I'm not making any changes on what I'm doing right now. I'm just outputting to the screen what I want to change at some point to make sure I can kind of look at it one more time before I do it. Again, we have a small handset of users here. If we were doing it to my 8,000 users, I probably would do something else. I may dump it to a CSV file, export as CSV, and then look at it in Excel. I'm not going to tell you how much programming I actually do in Excel for some of the things that I do, but I actually use Excel to write PowerShell code. It's a tangent we can go off on another point. But when I'm creating printers for the different schools, I actually have PowerShell code in a CSV, in an Excel spreadsheet that pulls IP addresses and all that stuff that I have in the code and then custom builds the PowerShell scripts that I then run to make the printer ports, share my printers out, and all of that stuff. And it auto creates the PowerShell code for me, so I don't even have to remember the code. So once I have it created, it's just like I pull this up, I change the IP address, change the name of it, and it outputs the PowerShell code, so I don't have to remember it in. Because Excel is cool, and a long time ago, someone says, you can program in Excel, and I was not thinking, and this is how that came out. So if we want to, we can have fun with that too. No. That does sound like a lot more fun. Okay, so getting back. So I'm just being somewhat lazy here and setting username to username, old phone to that, just giving you ways and showing you ways that you can do this. pulling those variables in to do that. What I wanted to specifically show out here, though, is how we're going to replace the new phone, how we're going to generate the new phone number, because all of those were the same and it was just they put the 5 wrong. I'm using the replace string operator to replace that. So I'm actually I'm probably replacing more than I need to, but this is a way, especially if you have some different variations, I want to specifically replace the certain ones that I want to. Replace what I'm doing, and the way that works is you can stop. Go in there, I'm just replacing this entire string with this new entire string. And then I'm just going to write it out. I could take the time to write it as an object so you can have that nice format table at this point, but I'm being lazy and just username, putting a tab in there, and putting the new phone number, just to give me a nice visual check before I actually do this. Again, I like to build as I go. And how this has worked, this is one script that I continue. I'll do the first part, then I'll keep adding and adding and adding. It's not normally a multiple series of scripts, but what this should output then here. Did I run it? No, I didn't. And again, as a nice way for me to check, that is the output that I'm going to deal with. Showing me, because I don't like to make changes unless I have to, so I want to check everything I do before I do it. So that's going to show me what I'm going to. That's the way I want it to work. So again, in that iterative process that I use to program and create my scripts, oops, we're going to now go down to this. And I've added a couple extra functions in here that don't normally in here, but it just starts to talking about some error handling.
Scroll up a little bit.
Sure.
Just something I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, right there. Just FYI, you see where his right host statement is line 64? Yeah. That's the tick.
Oh, yeah.
Your tab. The tick T
is a tab character.
Tick R and tick N is your
new line. And feed. Yeah, I actually had to look up tab. I was doing spaces and I'm like, no, I should do tab. But again, PowerShell tab character took me to the page to find it. Google is some of that, but now I'm going to remember it. But that's the tick character that's up above, usually on the keyboard up above the tab key on the left-hand side. So that's helpful. But again, that just gave me some nice separation. And again, trying to show you and open some of this up. And I will post this in the file just if you guys ever want to look at it, just to help you remember some of the stuff that we're doing. All right. Now, error handling. My code's good, but sometimes the data's bad. And instead of doing something and having it bomb out, I'm going to try to capture those errors. And actually, I didn't do this correctly. I had the what if statement in here from before just to do that. But what I would normally do is add an error action in here of continue. That's part of that try catch. I know just enough about try catch to be able to get me through and do some of that stuff. I can definitely, when we're talking about PS remoting next time, try to come up with some more examples and explain try catch a little bit better. I'm trying to remember what I learned 20 plus years ago in Java and bring that to PowerShell. It's very handy. You can have multiple catches. And if you know the error outputs that some of the variables that you're trying to do, you can actually create custom catches based on those error outputs. It's really cool. It's definitely more on the programming side of things. But even when you're writing your scripts, if you can throw try catch in there, I don't think this script actually needs a try and catch. I just wanted to kind of throw it in there and again, show you some of those concepts. The rest of the script is all here. What I am doing though here, just so you know, is I am doing the set AD user, which is another command. I'm saying what user I want to set that information to. The office phone, if you go back and look, is actually the telephone number that I'm pulling out. Why they don't just say telephone number on the PowerShell, you don't know. But you also have cell number and mobile number, or home number and mobile number in the set AD users, and you can try to figure out where those all go as well. So AD and PowerShell and trying to get everything, sometimes it's fun trying to figure out how they all go back and forth. So And what I'm basically doing is if there is an error for some reason setting those variables, I'm just writing an output. It's going to allow my script to continue, but I'm going to write an output here saying error on username, that there was a problem with that. Normally what I would do is I would probably create logging in there, and I would probably output that to an error log so I can go back and look and see that. And that's exactly what I do in my 400 line of code when I'm importing 5,000 users. I don't want my script to stop. I want it to continue, and if there is an error on something, which sometimes when you're doing that, it's because the account that you just created and now you're trying to adjust, it's not there all the way yet. So your script is running faster than that. So then you learn you have to put in pauses or waits in your scripts. At some point, I'm probably going to make it multi-threaded so I can get around some of that stuff. But right now, because my script, when I run, it takes over an hour to run to create all that stuff. So if I can make it multi-threaded at some point, it's going to be fun. But I just have not decided to spend the days to make it multi-threaded because I don't run the script very often, but it's fun.
Actually help? Because I mean, if it's just depending on the time to create the account.
Well, multi-threaded will help me at least get through the 5,000 faster. Yeah, not creating the count, but just trying to get through those 5,000 users faster. Yeah. No, it's not going to help with that. What I may at some point have 20 jobs all waiting, 2 seconds. But if 20 of those jobs running compared to one job synchronously running, that would help. So let's try this. I have not run this command yet, so we may see some debugging on the fly here because I didn't want to change any of that stuff ahead of time. Whoops, let's go back here. Oops. Brand new laptop that just came in. I'm playing with it today, so I'm still learning how to use it, so have fun. Let's see what happens. Yep, works right. We should have nothing. So one of the things we can do now is look up Nixon. So let's see what Nixon looks like. Get AD user, filter, SN.
How's passive aggressive changing your case for you?
Oh, that's because I'm hitting the tab. Yeah. Yeah.
Except we trust it, and then it goes, gets the virtual disk, which happened earlier. It's like, no.
And I'm also.
That was in a lab environment, so if something's disconnected,
This is why we have lab environments.
correct.
Exactly.
For example, I run non-destructive commands in production environments. I just want the full information.
All right, let's see what happens here. See if my. Oh, of course.
Yes.
Is it go last name? Oh, I know here. We'll do it. Yeah, well, but is SN should work, but I know what I'll do. Oh, and it could be because I didn't quote that in too. We'll just do it this way. That should get me, there we go. And it fixed Toby Nixon, and the names are now fixed. So I should be able to go back and then actually run. Go back and run. This command and see that all those users are now fixed. And this will peg the processor. So we still have some, actually what I should have ran, it should have been another one, I apologize.
Line 29.
Yep, the one that shows that.
Shows only that way it showed nothing.
Yep, well, no, it's still gonna show some, but at least those are fixed.
Yeah, none of the 20.
Yeah, which is the ones that are not in the proper format. Yeah, so now we're down to a handful. So we can either fix those or use that same process us to go through and click those, and or just individually because there's not that are the same, go through and fix that. So does that kind of give you an idea of some of the stuff you're going to do? Playing on what Tim is talking about, the individual concepts, and kind of starting to combine all of them together. Does that make sense? Cool. Now, I'm going to remember the book I talked about last week. I think we all talked about PowerShell in a month of lunches. We got giveaways, and guess what? I got us to buy some books. So we have 2 books to give away tonight, and we have a pair of wonderful Indie VMUG socks. So you get your choice. We're going to do a drawing for 3. So I'm not saying what's going to go first, but you have your choice. And Mr. Jones, you want to? What?
John.
What do you want? You want the socks? Do you want the book? That is it's the 3rd edition. It's the only. This is the 3rd. Yeah, it is the 3rd edition. This. Yeah, this is the 3rd edition of the book. Yeah. And I'm impressed the fact that you know that there are now 3 editions of that book. So. Yeah.
I never saw him all day at the UserCon.
Well, I don't know if he's very young.
Pizza place. That's where I saw a picture of him at the pizza place. I think that's the part you came for.
I kept running into him. Who's next? What do we got? Ed. What do you? Socks? Book? Socks? Book. That's what I would open. This book is broken up really nice too. It allows you, if you give it a chance, they are small little chapters of starting to learn some stuff. So it is an actually kind of fun book to go through. And you can do a couple lunches at once if you want to. Josh for the socks. Woohoo! All right. Thanks everyone. Do we still have some food out there?
I have it in the refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like some, I can certainly get it out.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Again, our next meeting is, I forget, August 15th, I believe. Go ahead.
The command that he put on there, the error action, that's a common parameter that generally will work on most commands. And there are options that you can basically tell it what you want PowerShell to do if it hits an error on that.
Yeah.
And I have run into, specifically with like get 80 user, that try won't catch it.
It's actually set on set 80 user. It doesn't work. Actually, I ran into that very issue. Set 80 user does not actually accept that. It's a pain in the butt.
Try doesn't catch it. You have to tell it to like get 80, like if you put in get 80 user blah blah, and you put that in the try, it'll still give you the error. It won't catch it. You have to tell it error action stop, because on some commands it doesn't consider that a stop action. I don't know. It's kind of complicated, and so it'll just do like it's been doing. So you have to tell it if something happens, I want you to stop, and then try catches it. I know it's kind of
and there's a couple of, on those.
Commands that maybe got carried in from the grandfathered into some of these other functions that maybe come later.
I know on particularly a set 80 user when I was looking at some of those and trying to do some set commands, the error action on for some reason on set 80 user, I don't know if it's an older command that just hasn't been updated recently. It doesn't like. You have to do some other weird things to get that to try and catch on that stuff. So just be aware of, test your code in the thing, and you'll figure out what's going on. But it's fun, and try and catch. I'll try to get to that as well, but that might be a lot with remoting and with try catch. But we'll try to get a little bit of all of it and have some fun. So, any other questions? Hit the Slack channel. I would love to have another wonderful PowerShell conversation going on in Slack again, like we had the last couple of weeks. Slack's kind of been fun lately. So everyone, thanks for coming. Yeah. Oh yeah. And if you want to get in Slack, definitely get with. If he hasn't got it, get that. And have a great day, guys.
If you get the invite, if we invite him, it should work, right?
Yeah, I can invite you to it. Okay. I'll just run for 3 now.